Today we're getting these theme park props primer coated, ready for final preparation for paint application. Now the primer coating is the foundation of any paint job. If the primer isn't right, same as the prior prep work, the paint won't be. So firstly, you need to make sure that your prep work is right, which is much easier said than done when it comes to fiberglass, as always. And typically, as I'm trying to look all professional, I get a power cut mid-filming, so I had to pop out and sort that. No idea why, but here we go. We move on. Anyway, these props are full of imperfections, so I will be primering these again once the primer is all sorted and painted this time, and I've got to refine the surface to my standards. I personally like to finish my prep work with a 320 grit sandpaper. That way the primer won't sink over time, exposing deeper scratches, etc., such as 180 grit or even 80 grits could catch if you're that crazy, and make all the paint finish look absolutely awful. These props are made from fiberglass, so they're prone to having many issues like pinholes and sinkages, especially once baked for the first time. I do like to bake them a couple of times before I get them in the booth for primer coatings, etc., but that's just another stage we like to take. But this is why I like to prime them and seal them, and then prep and prime again, just to ensure that I catch all the defects that primer can throw up in the surfaces. These props will be heavily exposed being in a theme park to the sun and various temperatures outside all day every day, so it's essential to make sure the process is done properly to prevent and prolong the effects of aging and deterioration of the painted surfaces. An adhesion promoter is applied before the primer to make sure that the primer will stick without flaking off further down the line. The primer I'm using is a High-Bill 4:1:1 mixing ratio. This will help me with eliminating any imperfections and minor scratches on the surface before paint. I'm spraying at a pressure of 26 psi roughly, with my fan wide open. There's no real special way to apply the primer, to be honest, apart from making sure to get your overlapping right and your strokes correct, etc., and to get a good heavy coat while keeping it as smooth as you possibly can. In between coats, I like to wait around 15 minutes to let each coat flash off. Some people like a few more, a few less. Your own personal choice. This is me. I'm doing 2 good coats. Like I said earlier, I'll be sanding it all back down and repriming again to make sure I catch all the imperfections that fiberglass can throw up. Once primered, I like to leave it about 24 hours usually before applying primer again at minimal to ensure it's fully gassed off, etc. But in this case, I will have to do some repairs to the surface, like pinholes or even these scratches, etc. So it will be more like 48 hours in this case, I guess. Once the primer is on, I'll apply a black like dusty coat, which is called a guide coat. That'll help me highlight any of the imperfections as I'm sanding down the primer, allowing me to easily and quickly find and rectify the surface imperfections wherever needed, really. To sand that primer down then, I'll probably be using a 500 grit sandpaper, as remember we're gradually trying to eliminate any imperfections and refine the surface to get it as smooth as possible for paint application. Just a quick tip, fiberglass needs to be baked at a lower temperature, as excessive heat can cause any air pockets in the surface and inside the molds to pop out and cause further surface issues and sinkages down the line. So always bear this in mind. I personally like to give it about 15-20 minutes of heat, and then I'll shut it off and let it dry and cure naturally overnight. There are so many obstacles that can occur, so take care, especially when dealing with fiberglass. That's the first primer stage done, so keep an eye out for the next episode of this process. Hopefully I've helped your understanding of this process, and I appreciate you watching. I'll see you again next time, I guess. Thank you very much. Take it easy, don't work too hard.